September 19th, 1977. Noto, Japan. This is the last time and place Yutaka Kume is seen ever, walking the beach at night. There's no reason for Kume to disappear, and there's no person who would have cause to kill him. He isn't rich, so ransom is out of the game. There isn't any suspicion of an active killer, so there's no reason to believe he was a victim of a serial murderer. The idea is bandied about that he defected to North Korea, but there's no reason or evidence. Much like my biological father, he's gone without a trace. To fully explain what happened that night in Noto, we have to take it back to 1910, the start of the Japanese occupation of Korea. Some Koreans weren't very happy about Japan saying hippity-hoppity, everything is my property, so they resist in silence. Now we take it to 1945. Russia invades Manchuria 3 days before America decided that nuclear holocaust was way fucking cooler than a war. Manchuria is returned to China, but Korea hasn't been its own nation since 1910 and wasn't doing the best before that. So it's divided between Russia and America. This starts the Korean divide, and it displeases many native Koreans who thought after all of this time under Japan, they'd finally be free. Besides these problems, though, we're good. Until China decides to fight over what economics it uses, starting the Chinese Civil War. The issue with this isn't entirely an issue besides politics. Russia, a communist nation, backs the communist revolutionaries in China, allowing them to win, and it also uses North Korea as a proxy to back China. We're still good in the two Koreas, except for the border skirmishes happening between the two of them. And then, in 1948, Korea goes whole hog in a Chinese-backed revolution fueled by socialism and a distaste for not being their own nation for the better half of a century starts brewing. Mind you, this is in the Cold War, so Russia doesn't give a fuck. More communism is very cool, it sticks it to the Americans. 1950 rolls around, and Kim Il-sung thinks that South Korea wants to be North Korea. Then bingo, bango, bongo, we have a war. America, upon learning this, is understandably like, hey, what the fuck? And then they hear communism and just... We lose, surprisingly. America never loses to commies in the jungle, right? But this starts a massive isolation trend in the newly formed North Korea. The little baby boy of a nation has one friend, so it cuts itself off for decades. And this takes us to Noto, Japan, on a September night in 77, where Yutaka Kume is last seen alive. Yutaka Kume isn't the only person to disappear mysteriously on the coast closest to North Korea. He was just the first. Among the victims are the following. Megumi Yokota, November 15th, 1977. She was a 13-year-old girl, stolen while walking home from school. She was taken, but lived. She married another kidnapped person from South Korea, had a daughter, and then killed herself at the age of 29 due to critical mental health and severe conditions. Minoru Tanaka, June 1978. Details about him are unknown, but Japanese spies confirmed that he is alive in 2019. Yakio Taguchi, June 1978. Yakio was a mother of two who worked to support her family at a nearby bar. She was also kidnapped walking home at night, and survived, but according to sources, died in 1986. Yasushi Okudo, Fuki Hamamoto, Karu Haisuke, and Yukiko Ogura, along with an American deserter, were all fortunate enough to be returned in 2004 after being missing since the 1970s. Imagine the music of your era going from Fleetwood Mac to Orwellian propaganda to Eminem. These people had their lives stolen from them by a fucking cartoon villain style of evil. The rest, who are unnamed here, are all never seen after their abduction, and while little information is available, most were women, and with how the world treats kidnapped women, their fates were most likely terrible. The question that remains is now, why would North Korea do this? The answer, as we know it, is to train spies. This comes from those who were freed and operatives in North Korea who were kidnapped to train North Korean spies in Japan's culture. Japan isn't the only nation to have their people kidnapped. Notably, South Korea and a variety of European nations had this happen to citizens as well. People tend to forget how outright evil countries like North Korea and China are. If it was possible without starting World War III, I'd rather like to see the scum in charge swing from a rope, but I digress. Talks between North Korea and Japan were understandably tense, and remain so. In 2002, when North Korea admitted it, Japan and the world at large was pissed. When only 4 were returned alongside a slimy-ass turncoat, Japan and the world at large were even more pissed. Japan, of course, likely already figured it out due to espionage, leading to North Korea's sudden revelation as they attempted to turn a very bad situation into a very good trust-building moment. Not much trust was built by outright admitting that, hey guys, we officially kidnapped 13 of your people and accidentally let 8 die. Whoopsie daisies. Also, this happened under the government's nose, even though we, the government, are basically the people who followed 1984 as an instruction guide. Definitely had nothing to do with this, and fuck you. Glad we could talk, though. Outrage at this incident only grew worse when it was revealed that all 8 of the death certificates were haphazardly forged. Since the return of those stolen, North Korea has claimed that the issue is resolved, that there is no more need to investigate. Which is convenient, as the stolen 17 are confirmed, but there are 880 more missing people in Japan who disappeared under similar circumstances and are suspected to have been jaboinked. In 2004, this number was at 883, but out of nearly 1,000 people disappeared under similar circumstances, only 3 bodies were found and turned out to be cases not connected. Since the return of the 4 Japanese nationals and 1 American turncoat, Pyongyang has maintained innocence and ignorance, and with the near information blackout in and out of Korea, only the stolen 17 at least get the decency of an attempt at honesty. Japan, however, very much so remembers the stolen 17 that are confirmed to have been taken, and the lost 880, imposing trade sanctions, not allowing North Korean ships through Japanese waters. And this is the most we can do, short of full-scale war, a mess that would get the blood of countless innocents washed onto the streets, and also likely end the world in nuclear fire and brimstone. The fates of the unreturned victims remain unknown to this day. Even though only 13 were admitted to, 8 of which were claimed dead, there is 17 confirmed to have been taken, and, like I said, 880 suspected to have been. Likely, most really did die, in a manner that would mean war if admitted. Maybe a lucky or unlucky few out of the confirmed stolen 17 remain alive, prisoners to a nation they never wronged. And I send my heart to those affected, to Yutaka Kume, the stolen 17, and the lost 880. I hope peace is with you. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching, and if you're new here, subscribe. It's free and it helps me reach my dreams. This video was inspired by an entry on an iceberg chart I covered a few weeks ago, and it's just something that piqued my interest in a manner that I had to take a second look at it. So if you liked this, or you have recommendations of topics you've seen in my iceberg videos that you'd like a full video on, just go ahead and comment down below. Once more, thank you again for watching so much. Have a wonderful time. Memento Mori.